category is Addams Family Fantasy. Hey y'all, it's Angela. Welcome back. A few months ago I made a video talking about the specific book tropes that I like that aren't necessarily genre defined, and I asked you all for some recommendations that fit within those tropes, and y'all seriously came through. So for this video I'm going to be reading some of the books that you all have recommended and see if I can find my new favorite. The first book I'll be reading is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This was recommended for the tropes of found family, kind of unlikely characters forming a team, having to work together, and also a bit of that tech sci-fi side. The next book I'll be reading was for the trope of a Clue-esque type of mystery, or like a closed circle type of mystery, and a lot of people recommended Agatha Christie. So I've decided to pick up And There Were None. And the final book I'll be reading is for the book trope of a specific piece of technology dictating a subjective part of the human experience. That one was really confusing to put a name to, but somebody recommended Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett, so I'm gonna pick that up and see how it goes. So thank you very much to everyone who left a recommendation under that video. I'm going to be doing a part 2 to this because there were just so many really great picks that I either already had my eyes on or would be interested after reading the synopsis, so that will be coming up. So I finished the first book today, and it was And There Were None by Agatha Christie. I was about to say Christina Aguilera. Not the same person at all. So And There Were None is a closed circle mystery. A group of 10 people are invited to this remote island, each receiving a different invitation with a different purpose of why they were invited there. When these 10 people get there, they realize we done been duped. And what happens is people start getting murdered, showing up dead, and we're basically, as a reader, trying to figure out the mystery behind it. This trope of like a clues, whodunit kind of mystery has always been, in my mind, associated most with Agatha Christie, and good reason for it too. This book was really entertaining. This is very much kind of a, you get to know all these different characters, they all have their own backstories, and they're all lying. You get to kind of unravel each of their stories bit by bit to finally put together the mystery of the entire story. Also, not me over here literally trying to take notes like I'm a freaking detective, like trying to write down who's who. Anyways, even though I took notes on what the heck happened, I didn't really see the ending coming, gonna be honest. The ending was honestly really kind of convoluted. It's kind of a lot, and the believability is kind of low, but was it fun? Yes, it was so immensely fun. I had a great time being a part of the mystery. So that recommendation was an absolute astounding success. Thank you to all of y'all who recommended Agatha Christie, and specifically And There Were None. I'll be hopefully checking out more of her books. I really like the way that she writes. It's very kind of posh, old style. The narrators for her books are really good. I really like the narrators that they've chosen. Hello, I just finished The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This book is a sci-fi set on a ship called the Wayfarer, and it follows the crew of the Wayfarer. The book starts when a new member joins the crew. Her name is Rosemary. She is the newly hired clerk for the Wayfarer. This book, I enjoyed it, but I had different expectations than what this book actually is all about. This crew gets accepted for this really important job that requires them to have a very long travel to get to their location, and the entire book is basically stories along this travel. So honestly, it's more like a road trip type of story, but the road is in space. I got a little bit bored definitely halfway through because I was hoping to have more like tension, kind of like something kind of driving the plot forward. It really feels like a compilation of well-explored vignettes smooshed together about this crew. There were several moments where I thought the tension in the plot, the way it was carried out, kind of fell really flat. The characters often made a big deal out of things that maybe it's a big deal in this universe, but to me wasn't a big deal in the context that I've read so far of these characters. Overall, this was a very comfortable read, and if you're ever looking for a beach read that's not in the beach read genre, this would be like of the same style where it's very light and you can kind of pick it up, put it down at basically any time. All the chapters are basically their individual stories that really aren't related to each other. So I think I'm gonna give this book a 3.5 stars. It definitely hit a lot of the tropes that I mentioned in my video, and I'm glad I read it. I was really curious about this one the most out of all the recs that I received. So yeah, glad to have finished it. Now I'm moving on to Foundryside, a book that I'm very scared to start. I think it's pretty high fantasy, like high tech fantasy, and this book is also not short. It's like over 500 pages, so we'll see how it goes. Y'all, this book, oh my goodness. Foundryside is, why did I read this book so late? This is one of the best books I've read this year. It was so freaking good. Oh my goodness. Foundryside is set in this world where there are these things called scrivings, basically a really complex language that you can put on inanimate objects and impart a certain command, a will, onto these inanimate objects, and they do things. The book starts out with our main character Sanchia, who is a thief, and she's being paid to do this job to basically steal this very inconsequential looking box. Because she's getting paid a lot, she's thinking, what the hell is this box? So when she opens it, she discovers that, oh, crap, I have something that's like super freaking important, and that kind of like sets her down this road of political dealings between the four main houses who are in charge of like the scrivings, the very mystical world and origins that these scrivings come from, and she gets herself kind of involved in this very complex heist plan. So this is a heist book. It's freaking fantastic. There's so much action, and the world building with this very new, very original system of, I would classify it more as magic than technology, but this kind of new system of like magic and order, it's just so interesting to learn about. And I think that the way it was worked in to the book in the beginning, like explaining the kind of background behind how things work, behind how people have been using these scrivings, is so well done. When I was reading this the whole time, it reminded me of my experience reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and I think it has the same qualities of, you have a crew that kind of gets like thrown together. They have to do these very elaborate, seemingly impossible plots. You follow several different perspectives. It's high action. The action is written really well. There's like no skipping on the details of the action. You have a really complex magic system, and it's perfect. So I did read this for my category of kind of tech, defining a part of the human experience, but I would say this definitely falls more to the fantasy realm. It's not quite sci-fi, and I think this also has really good like unlikely teams having to work together. Those two elements combined made this such a great reading experience. I literally started this book last night and I finished it in less than 24 hours. It was so freaking good. I would absolutely recommend this if you're looking for another high fantasy to get into, and this is a series, and I can't wait to read the next book. I'm definitely gonna be reading this next one. So those were the 3 recommendations that I got from y'all. Thank you so much for leaving all those recommendations. Like I said earlier, I definitely will be doing a part 2 to this because there were a lot of great picks in that video. And I think overall the books that I read were all really good and definitely had a lot of the elements that I absolutely love in books. This was such a fun vlog and video to do. If you all think of any other books that kind of might fit into these categories, please let me know in the comments. Again, part 2, part 3, part 4, the parts are infinite, they will be coming. Thanks for watching the video. If you like what you saw, please click like, and if you want to see more of my reviews, please click subscribe. And if you haven't already, please add me on Instagram, Goodreads, Storygraph. I would love to be friends with all of y'all on there as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.